Let's move on to the final part of our demonstration. For this portion, I'll use a project where I've already accumulated some data. While we've made Viz much faster at importing and indexing your data, I've loaded this 100 megabytes or so of data earlier, and it only took about 5 minutes to import. But rather than sit here and watch Viz ingest the data, let's just get started. The scenario for this demo is that there has been a piracy attack near Sri Lanka perpetrated by the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Alam, and we've been tasked with finding out what's known about the pirates and who they might be affiliated with. The data already loaded represents thousands of simulated intelligence reports from various sources, which here is served by 3,400 news reports harvested off the internet, 1,000 fictitious news reports, a couple thousand international news reports, and over 25,000 reports on terrorism incidents. Additionally, I have two external databases I'll be using. One is the NTSB database you saw earlier, with more than 67,000 accidents, and another is the NGA piracy database, with just over 5,000 incidents. Together, these databases represent almost a gigabyte of data. Lastly, I have about 120 full analyses that are taking the place of finished intelligence reports, and I'll load those up in a bit. Since I'm investigating a piracy event, I'll start by querying the NGA ASAM database by clicking on the ASAM query plugin on the data ribbon. To begin, I'll enter the group's acronym LTTE as my query. What I get back is a set of piracy events where LTTE is included in the synopsis, in this case 27 of them. The plugin automatically loaded the record type and the semantic mappings for this data, so I can immediately just toss the results into the Knowledge Manager and see what came back from the query. As you can see, a number of semantic objects have been identified by Starlight in these records. Both the full name of LTTE and just Tamil tigers have been found, so we'll group those together. We can see that the group is tied to the vessel Cordiality in an attack, and we can view that data by double-clicking on either the link or the icon of the vessel. Here's the record tying Cordiality to LTTE in Sri Lanka. Since we're not interested in anything else that came back from this query, we can quickly remove it from the Knowledge Manager. Let's take a closer look at what just happened. First, we'll look at the data. This is the raw data shown in Microsoft Access. As you can see, there are quite a few tables, but the one we're interested in is called ASAM at the top. This table has a few columns, but the ones we're interested in contain the date, aggressor, victim, and a synopsis of the attack. Except for the date column, these are just strings without much for a program like Viz to go on. Now let's take a look at the plugin itself. To do this, I'll load up the ASAM query plugin in Starlight Data Engineer. This is a fairly basic SDE processor that happens to function as a plugin for Viz, as indicated by the plugin output module at the far right. The first module connects to the database and extracts the raw data. The next few SDE modules augment that data using entity lists and a relationship detector. One of the lists we're using for this processor contains about 800 vessel names to help identify the piracy targets in Viz. Something worth noting here is that the new Large List Extractor module can very quickly find terms using very large lists containing millions of unique terms. This makes it incredibly valuable for users who have lists of interesting names, places, or other words they want to scan documents for. With 413, we've also introduced a new capability to the database connector that allows plugin creators to specify a query for users to leverage sophisticated SQL statements behind the scenes. Let's see how to do this. For those of you who know a little bit about SQL, you'll recognize most of what you see here. The other parts are a way of marking up the query that tells Starlight how to present a query dialog to the user. The specifics are all documented in the module's help, but you can set up fields for strings, numbers, dates, times, and even custom patterns using regex. You saw the dialog this creates just a moment ago. Another change to SDE is the ability to import record types from Viz and embed them directly into the plugin. Not only does this allow you to customize the record type by setting up complex and common properties in advance, but it also means that semantic mappings can be built into the plugin so that users can begin with a completely empty project, use a plugin, and be ready to analyze the data without having to deal with any record type management or data mapping. Now let's go back to Viz and get back to our analysis. I also have about 25,000 terrorist incidents in a knowledge base, and I want to see what else LTTE may have been up to. To do this, I'll just query the record set for incidents attributed to the group and add them to the Knowledge Manager as well. We'll add these 127 records to the Knowledge Manager and see what they contain. You can see each of the individual incidents represented by a bomb icon, all linked to LTTE, and LTTE linked to its leader, E. Kalsalyan. This is a little more detail than I need at the moment, so I'll group these down and join the new LTTE icon with the other one. I've also cleaned up the chart a little bit by having Viz lay it out again. As mentioned, I have about 120 finished analyses that I might be able to gain some more insight from. These are actually from the company's strategic forecasting and comprise about a year's worth of reports, just under 8 megabytes. I'll drop them on Viz and look for more information on LTTE. Viz is now looking through these files for entities it knows about and marking relationships between them so that when I add documents from the set to the Knowledge Manager, they'll automatically contribute all the various entities we're interested in to the chart. By searching for just the first part of our group's name, Viz found 2 documents containing relevant information. Let's just drop these into the Knowledge Manager and see what they contain. There's quite a bit concerning Al-Qaeda in these 2 documents, but they're only linked by the report's author, Fred Burton. I'll remove the author and clean up the chart a little bit. The fact that a company has become involved in our chart is interesting. Since we have a bunch of data already loaded, let's use the power of the Knowledge Manager to further build out our network. To do this, I'll use the add related data command. We've gotten to both ends of this little network here, so let's clean it up and see what we've got. From our initial investigation into the piracy attack, we've built out a network that connects piracy in Sri Lanka to Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorism in northern India, and to acts perpetrated by Mujahideen-e-Khalq in Iran using Starlight's analysis of the free text sources. We can now drill into the reasons behind these connections to verify accuracy by clicking on each of the links and seeing why two entities are tied to each other. Mariam Rajavi is noted as the leader of the Mujahideen-e-Khalq terrorist organization and a key person in the Jamand Corporation. The report also mentions that Mariam was killed in a plane crash in Minsk. Since we have the NTSB database, which covers planes built by American companies even if they crashed in foreign countries, let's see if we have any information about this. Using the NTSB query plugin, I can search for planes owned by Jamand. We see that it was a Hawker owned by Jamand that crashed in Minsk. The plugin automatically added the record type and semantic map, but I want to add edge labels to it. To do this, I'll open up the semantic mapping dialog, look at the relationships for this record type, and add a data caption to the NTSB data. Now let's add this record to our chart. The Knowledge Manager has automatically linked the plane crash to the Jamand icon on the chart and shows the date and time of the accident on the relationship line. From here, we're ready to prepare our report, which I can start by just exporting the chart as a PDF. This concludes our review of a few new features in Starlight 4.1.3. For more information about Starlight and all its capabilities, check out our website at www.futurepointsystems.com. If you have more questions or want to set up a discussion with our sales team, send an email to sales@futurepointsystems.com. Thank you.